for chamber news. And I'll tell you that the more you work with this guy, the more you like working with him, and the more you want to work with him. He's the interim director of your Madison County Chamber. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dirk Webb.
Thank you, Brett. Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me say thank you to the mayor for coming and making the wake-up breakfast an important part of the city's business. Thank you. Thanks to Ivy Tech for hosting. Remember that next time we meet, we'll be back at St. Vincent, and so come and be a part of that. Also, here's some upcoming things. Social media marketing series with Christy Regal of Whole Heart Communications. That's a free event at the chamber offices on the 24th from 8 o'clock to 9:30. Also, next month, the month of May, the Little 500 Biz Bash, May 17th, out at Anderson Speedway, 4 to 6. And a little different this morning, Patty Lovins, wherever she went, Patty is, there she is back there. She has a computer with her and can register you for those events here this morning if you'd like to do that. Also, then we have some ribbon cuttings this afternoon at 4 o'clock. We're with Till Eye Care. We have one coming up with Sherwin Williams and also the new Fairfield Inn and Suites. We'll be doing a ribbon cutting there. I'd also like to welcome some new members. Clean Slate. Clean Slate. I know they're here. I saw them. There we are. Clean Slate. All right. White River Paintball and Zip Line. He's not here. Okay. He's not here. We would like to do an event with them one of these times. Anybody like to zip line? I love it. It's fun, isn't it? Carlene's going to zip line, so there you have it. No Mike, she's going to zip line. So come and be a part of that. Now I want to invite a friend of mine and a friend of yours, Kim Williams from the United Way Up. We want to talk about playing golf, especially on a day like today when the weather is still not where it should be. Kim and I would like to talk about golf. So Kim?
All right. Good morning, everybody. That time of year is coming up. It is time for the United Way Chamber Golf Classic. It's taking place Friday, July 13th this year at Anderson Country Club. We have lots of opportunities for all of you to get involved. It's the community's, the county's largest golf event, so it is an excellent opportunity to get out there and meet people, network with other businesses in the community while you support two great organizations. One of our great sponsors, Community Hospital, is our presenting sponsor this year, so we want to say a big thank you to them for sponsoring again. But we have lots of other great opportunities, whether you play, we have team packages, we have course, things you can do on the course. One of the big sponsorships that has come open this year, if anyone's interested, is one of the favorite one for players, and that's our Oasis Bar and drink sponsor. So if you want to be the business that's out there helping people stay hydrated, among other things, during that day, by all means, please come and see me afterwards. I would love to talk to you more about that. Anything you want to add?
I don't have.
All right. Well, July 13th, mark your calendars and plan to come out and join us. Thanks.
Thank you, Kim. One other thing, you were late over your table, it's important to note this morning, Matt Russ has graciously not come up this morning so we can give more time to our guests. But Matt has laid some information down on your tables, and when Matt says the fun starts here, that's what he means. So thank you, Matt. Appreciate everything that you do in our community. We really love having you as part of this. All right, Brett, you ready?
And thank you, sir. And of course, one of the things that Mann has provided is your Discovery magazine that has a lot of great reading about things going on in and around Anderson and Madison County. We now move to the part of the program that I certainly have been looking forward to this morning. I don't know how many people in here can say that they are running in their 7th Indianapolis 500. We'll find out in a little bit with a show of hands. But nonetheless, to bring our special guest on, I would like to bring forth a friend of yours and a friend of mine, and she is a friend of our guest this morning. Barbara Holder, if you would, please come on up, and then we'll let you bring your guest up. Certainly looking forward to this segment.
I can probably to use my barred voice and be just fine without a mic. On most of the tables, I put a fairly comprehensive, although not everything, that our guest has done. So if I went through everything, you'd only hear from me, and nobody wants that. But our guest this morning, Pippa Mann, hails from the UK, and we're going to talk a little bit with her about her travels from across the pond to Indy. It's a really great story, and I'll let her tell it. She probably would not describe herself as a trailblazer or a pioneer, but she is. I got to know her a little bit last year, and over the past several months I've gotten to know her better. So I'm going to have her share her story with all of us. So Pippa, come on up and join us, please. And who's going to give me the high sign when it's time for Q&A? Somebody? Timekeeper? Otherwise, we'll keep going. We're going to have fun.
I mean, here's the problem. You give a racing driver a microphone and ask them to talk about themselves. Most of you know racing drivers well enough to know that that's a very bad idea if you want to get out of here, you know. Today, this week, before May.
And you throw me in the mix and you know what that means. Okay, so be sure to take a look at this and check out Pippa's bio off of her website, which is, okay. And
your hair.
Oh.
There you go.
For those of you wondering if you can spell my name, you can probably find my website.
Yeah, and this is not the usual black jacket with the big gold P that I wear. But it's fun. Okay, so that's not a Hoosier accent.
It's an honorary Hoosier accent. I mean, come on, I've been here long enough.
So, you came across the pond, you're not F1. Hey everybody, check out the glasses. So, talk about growing up. Why aren't you racing Formula One? How did you get involved in racing? How'd you get here? Tell the backstory.
So I grew up as a race fan. My daddy was a race fan, and he used to take me to motor races when I was a little girl. I was always thrilled. I loved going. I'm responsible for many of the speeding tickets my dad has, from encouraging to drive too fast to and from the racetracks.
Now I need to stop you. Did I see the sheriff come in?
He's in England.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
He's not here.
Okay.
So I was responsible for that growing up, but we were not a racing family. Nobody in our family raced. We didn't know anybody who raced. We had no clue. So when I was about 12 years old and we went to the local indoor go-kart track, that's all we thought 12-year-olds did if they wanted to drive something. And after about 1 month of attending that and attending their kids club on a sort of Saturday basis, the guy running the kids club pulled my dad to one side and he said, "Look, your daughter spends more time in the sin bin for bullying all of the other kids on the racetrack than she spends actually getting laps on the racetrack. She outgrew this place the first week you came here. You need to take her racing properly." Wait, She's not even 13. What do you mean take her racing properly? And the guy sort of sighed and rolled his eyes and told us when he got off shift and offered, said, "If you buy me coffee, I'll tell you about it." So that was the beginning of many bad decisions that led me to where I am today. And that's the short version of the story.
So you're not racing Formula One in Europe. Why?
So I did grow up coming up through the ranks in Europe, and as with most racing drivers, I could make this a very long story, but I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible in the interest of time. At the time, I got about as far as any female had done in Europe in the past 10 years, and I had the best results of any female for about the past 10 years, but quite frankly, that wasn't good enough. And so I had two options. I was going to go and have a career in sports car racing in Europe, which, again, probably would have been a smart decision. I would have been getting paid to race at this point for many years and trying to find my own money to run. But I got an opportunity to come to the US and try and continue open wheel. And when I first got here, I was like, yeah, it's cool. They're big, fast cars, the Indy cars, yeah, this is cool. But a little piece of my heart was still left at home. Until I sat in the stands of May 2009, and I saw my first Indianapolis 500. From that moment on, I never wanted to go back. And sadly, you guys have been stuck with me ever since, so you all did something very wrong in a former life, because I got here and I refused to leave.
So we were talking at our table. Now, obviously, there are a lot of business people in here, and IndyCar and racing as a whole is a sport, but it's also a business. You are a small business operation, and we talked about these young entrepreneurs. Talk about being an entrepreneur and a small business person.
So when Barb and I were actually sitting at the table this morning, she looked at me, and I thought I knew Barb well enough by this point that I thought she knew this was a dumb question, and she looked at me and she said, "What are you doing with your time at the moment?" And I sort of looked at her like, huh? So what am I doing with my time at the moment, given I don't actually have a race car to drive? Well, the first thing is I raise my own money to go racing. Therefore, I am the primary point of contact for every person who decides to invest in my racing program. I am incredibly grateful to have Donate Life on board, not only as a title sponsor this year, but it's a cause that means so much to me. But that's only about half of my budget. The entire rest of my budget comes from a group of 12 companies, some of whom are spending a little more money, you can see on my sleeve here. And the rest of whom are literally spending amounts of sort of $20,000, $10,000 all to help me. So there's 12 of these companies. I still need to find one or two more before race day to try and break even on this thing. So I have a lot of people to look after. I'm the primary point of contact for all of those people, including my title sponsor. So my days are literally spent trying to get workouts in, trying to fulfill the needs of all of the people who are helping me go racing, having meetings with them so we can discuss what they want to do, recording podcasts for them, shooting advertise for them, doing appearances for them. I literally leave from here, I go back to my home in downtown Indianapolis, get changed, do my makeup, try and make my hair look good, and I'm going to go and do a shoot for a jewelry company that I'm hoping to announce later this week. And take the photos today, try and announce it tomorrow. This is how my world moves. But this is all just to make the race car break even. I don't get paid in May. I know you guys see myself and the other drivers get these big checks after the bank, like, you earned, $200,000. That was race car money. That went to my team owner, and that was claimed to make my race car run alongside the little bit of budget I'm able to bring to the table. It's not driver money. So, alongside doing all of this, I also have to have a job that earns me income so that I can buy food and pay rent and afford to pay for my training and, same necessities to everybody else. We all have gas bills and TV and cable bills. So I work as a performance driving coach for the on-track programs for several large manufacturers. And so for 10 days prior to Monday of this week, I was based in California in Laguna Seca working 12 to 14-hour days for this manufacturer. So last week I did a lot of punting. So last week when people were emailing me, hey, can we talk about this? Can we set it? I did a lot of, can I get back to you this week? So literally the first half of this week, I'm proud to say I'm back at inbox 0. I made it. It took me a little while.
Great. So, when I met you the first time, you were at Clear Object, I think.
Clear Software.
Clear
Really?
Software, thank you. I always get those two mixed up. A sponsor.
So Clear Software is a Zionsville-based software company, and their whole idea is literally to go into really big businesses and help them make their software much clearer for their employees to be able to use. So kind of cool name, Clear Software, but I first persuaded John, who's the CEO and an Indianapolis resident, to sponsor my car when a friend of his, who's a friend of mine, dragged him into my garage during the month of May, in between 2 test sessions on track, when I was suited and booted. And so that's literally the way it is. I'm proud to say they're coming back for a 3rd year straight, that was the first year that they'd ever been involved in IndyCar when you met them.
And I was there because I was with Women in High Tech. The current president, Audrey Taylor, is the CEO of NetLogix, who is now sponsoring for the first time this year. So it's all about networking, bringing people to the table. Talk about, with this group, master networkers in here, how important is networking to you getting sponsorships and building relationships?
So when you're trying to make a race car run yourself, as Bob has pointed out, and I think most of you in this room are figuring out, I do not have the luxury of just being a race car driver. I have to be able to be a keynote speaker, as I'm trying to do today. I have to be able to walk into meetings and talk to people. But here's the big deal with racing. Quite frankly, 9 times out of 10, racing is going to provide you a pretty poor return on investment if you're just interested in a sticker with your logo on it on a race car. So my job, when I meet people who might be interested, is to figure out what we can really do for them that's going to make this a return on investment for that company. And for different companies, it's different things. For some, it's entertaining out at the racetrack. For Clear Software, they really like to use me in their home community in Zionsville for getting engaged with the community. So for them, it's not so much about furthering what they do, it's more about furthering who they are in their hometown and using me to help support those events. For example, one of the things we're doing this year is, later in the year, we plan to host a competition whereby they're going to invite all of the young tech-savvy people in Zionsville and certain age groups to try and create a really cool design that features their logo in some way. And this came up because one of the daughters of one of the employees drew a dragon with the big Clear Software C as part of their logo. They're like, oh my God, this is so cool. So their favorite design is going to get made into t-shirts. And the t-shirts are going to be sold on my website, in the store on my website. So I'm going to work with them to help promote this contest, reach out to that audience of people, spread the message much further than they would be able to. And then when somebody wins this, not only is their t-shirt going to be on my website so that all of their friends and family can come and buy it, and that they've got a real product that's live out there, I'm going to take that person out to lunch with their family and spend some time meeting them. So it's really cool community things like this is what works for that specific sponsor. Just yesterday, I was recording 3 15-minute podcasts about data analysis and system management. I know nothing about system management. But we were trying to find ways to tie this all back into racing, and we discovered that actually, I know a little bit more than I thought I did about data analysis and system management once we started to tie it back into the data of race cars and how you manage things at pit stops and who's making the decisions and how you're setting things up. So with every business, it's important to sit down and figure out what they want. But because most people know that motor racing is not a great return on investment straight up, getting an introduction from someone who says, hey, I know maybe you haven't considered this, or maybe you don't think this is a fit, but go talk to this girl and see. That's where most of my sponsors come from. So it's a very big deal for me.
However, where'd he go? I think Joe Clark stepped out. My financial advisor would not let me invest my retirement money.
And I completely agree with this, yes. This is not about retirement money.
Yes, he liked it when I said no. Pippa told me no as well. So yes, in our many conversations, Joe said no, Pippa said no. So if you're looking at IRA funding an older family logo on that car, no. Pippa says no. So we heard a little earlier that there's going to be a social media workshop. I find you a pretty masterful user of social media to connect with fans, to get your message out. I've seen a lot of very young fans want to take selfies with you at different events. Talk about how you use media, both traditional and social, to get your message out.
So once again, obviously having to be a jack of all trades in my position, I'm also my own marketing manager, I'm my own PR person most of the time, and I'm certainly my own social media manager. So all of this falls under the realm of responsibility of things I need to do to make sure the race car functions. And quite frankly, when you are a smaller program, which I am, and you don't have a huge amount of the funding, which is us, and when you're competing at the Indianapolis 500, and this year I like to use the words attempting to qualify for my 7th Indianapolis 500, because to me that's really, really important until we get through qualifying. I hate tempting fate. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I am racing until we've qualified for the thing. But when you're in that position, and you want to be competing for the top 15, and you're trying to compete for your first top 10 at that race, let's be honest. My program is not put together to try and compete for the overall win. I do not get as much unpaid media as some of the bigger names and the other drivers. So that means I have to be able to work harder to engage my audience on social media, because this is something I can offer my partners. I can offer them exposure through my social media channels. I can offer to help expose some of the events and things they want me to talk about, some of the things they're doing. If any of you follow me on Instagram, shameless plug, I'm at Pippa Mann. From the past 2 days, you'll see me talking about some workout videos we were shooting with Ortho Indy and telling people to go to their Facebook page. You'll see me sitting in the Beltec Logix offices, drinking from a coffee mug, trying to be awake for their podcast at 9 a.m. in the morning, having just got back from California. But you see, that's something relatable and funny, and it has their logo in the shot, and it tells people there's a podcast coming up. So this is the big thing with social media, is learning how to keep a personality, and learning even when to say no to certain sponsor requests. Learning how to keep it authentically you is very, very important. My fans follow me because they want to connect with me. They want to connect with my sponsors because they're helping support me. At the same time, they don't connect to my feed just to see this stream of sort of advertisements. So I have to keep it authentically me. I have to keep a sense of humor about it. I try and keep things light wherever appropriate, sort of slightly on the humorous edge. People relate to that. It makes them relate to the people whom are supporting me. And that in turn allows me to give more exposure to those people.
Great. So there's a lot of talk broadly today about diversity in many industries and many organizations. It might be gender, might be age, might be diversity of thought. In your field, and I remember this because I'm going to age myself here, Janet Guthrie ran in May of '77. That was the year I graduated from college, so I really remember it. If I remember my history right, it was 15 years before Lynn St. James ran, and that was '92. Now, she was Rookie of the Year at the age of 45. She was already a very accomplished driver in other series. Both of those women, I'm sure you know and have met, right? After
they're
that,
the trailblazers, not me, by the way.
Yeah, they are trailblazers, but you still, there are not a lot of women that have been on that track. Talk about being very different from the other people in your industry.
So one of the big things about being a woman in racing is, for a long time, there was this thought process that as a female athlete in motorsport, it would be easier for you to find funding than your male counterparts. And actually, that has been proven very much untrue for almost every female athlete to come through IndyCar in the past 10 years, bar the exception of one lady, Danica, who's getting to return to Indy for her last race this May. But when you look at the career of Sarah Fisher, when you look at myself, Ana Beatriz from Brazil, who was also an Indy Lights race winner, top 5 championship finisher, when you look at Simona Di Silvestro, who was and I'm going to use a very American verb here and it annoys me because I'm English, but the winningest driver, not female driver, the winningest driver in the history of Atlantics, and the winningest female driver too on her way up to IndyCar level. Quite a few of us are able to get there once. the sustainability of finding the support to be able to stay there as a female in racing is still very, very difficult. In general, the teams have no problem with you if you're a female driver. They have no problem if you have a different race, ethnicity. They don't care. They want to see how you drive a race car. They want your feedback from driving the race car. In general, my competitors have no issue with me on the racetrack. The ones who do stand out like sore thumbs. However, when you're trying to find the funding to go racing, as I already mentioned, in general, motorsport is a really, really tough sell. So in general, when a company, and I'm making generalizations here, but you know, they're true for a lot of people. In general, when a company decides to spend in motorsport, it's driven by somebody who loves motorsport. 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a male executive, a male marketing executive. And just as how I more closely associate with other female drivers, and if I found funding and somebody told me I want you to place it with another driver, I would recommend a female. The male marketing executives are more drawn to male drivers because it's someone like them. It's who they understand. And it's appealing to a direct motorsport audience that they understand of that male fan base. What Danica and her marketing team cracked in a way that many other female drivers either don't want to do or haven't cracked is they cracked having a female driver appeal to that male audience in the same way. And in the same time gained a massive amount of female following too. What a lot of female drivers want to do, myself included, Simona Di Silvestro, Anna Beatrice, Catherine Legg, Sarah Fisher, all fall into this category, and even Lynn St. James and Janet Guthrie back in the day, is we want to be counted as racing drivers first. Now, I am still a woman. That's still my gender. It identifies who I am as a human being. It doesn't identify who I am as a racing driver. To me, my gender is the same as my nationality. It says something quite important about me. You may support me because of it. You may choose to root against me because of it. It's kind of this defining parameter that tells you a little bit about how I was raised and who I might be as a person. It doesn't mean anything about what I do behind the wheel of a race car. And it took me a long time to become really comfortable with effectively that juxtaposition of being able to stand up and say, you know what? It's okay to be a female athlete. And the only way I can help do my tiny little piece to try and help change this perception to the outside world of who female athletes and who female racers are, I have to stand up and be counted while I'm visible. And I have to stand up and continuously make this statement that, you know, if you said British race car driver at the head of a sentence, I can assure you there would be a lot less comments on the article than if you led with the words female race car driver. And yet in reality, they both describe how I drive in exactly the same way.
Interesting. Okay, so I heard athlete in there. What do you say or how do you react when somebody says, racing really isn't a sport, you're not really athletes, you just sit there and keep turning for a few hours? React to that.
So the big deal is obviously is that, first of all, the Indianapolis 500 or any really big auto race is a 2 to 4 hour event. So it's a very long endurance test. You have an elevated heart rate during that time. You're in a very unfriendly environment. You're head to toe in Nomex. You've got a helmet on your head. You've got, in an open wheel car, like a little bit of air hits you right here. That's it, right there. And in a closed cockpit car, you've got nothing at all unless the car has kind of some sort of air system, and even those are pretty hot and gross most of the time. So you have a high heart rate, A from exertion, B from the fact it's a stressing factor when you're racing. You're sweating because of the heat the entire time. You have to be strong because most race cars don't have power steering. In the sports car world, more race cars are getting power steering, but their steering is still heavy. An Indy car has no power steering at all. This is my power steering. That's why my arms are big. That's my power steering for the race car. So you're in this pretty hostile environment, working very hard for this 2 to 4 hour period, and you've got to be ready for that, because if you're not, it is going to kick your backside. I'd invite some of them to come try it, like, hey, you want to go? Let's see how you do.
I'm not sure my backside would fit with that story for another day. We'll talk about that later. Okay, too much information. Talk about Donate Life and your relationship with them and I don't want to get too emotional.
No, I
I've
can
read
do
this. I've read the story. Let's see if you want to move on. We
No.
can. Okay.
So, Donate Life is my title sponsor this year, and the funding is actually coming from Donate Life Indiana, even though we're representing Donate Life America on the car, because we wanted to represent the national brand at this big national race. The reason I was asked to join this campaign is from the Clausen family. As most of you know, Justin Wilson passed away a few years ago at Pocono Raceway, and he was an organ donor. After he passed away, his little brother Steph and the Indiana Donor Network started a campaign called Driven to Save Lives to help sign up race fans and educate race fans on being organ donors, tissue donors, organ transplantation. This was an incredibly successful campaign. At the same time, at the 100th running of the Indianapolis 500, Brian was my teammate. And because Justin had been such an incredible teammate to me, that kind of gave me the blueprint of how to behave, for want of a better word, towards a new teammate joining our team, who was Brian. Brian and I became really good friends during the course of May. And then in August, 1 year after Justin passed away, lightning struck Trump twice. Brian passed away after an accident at the Belleville Midget Nationals in Kansas. Brian was also an organ donor. Brian's family immediately started kind of their own grassroots campaign to help sign up race fans in the wake of Brian's death, really targeting that short track community. And this campaign had such incredible success that they then also connected with the Indiana Donor Network and the Driven to Save Lives campaign. This year, Steph Wilson, Justin's little brother, will be running and attempting to qualify for his second Indianapolis 500 in a Driven to Save Lives car. Alongside Steph's effort, I'm going to be attempting to qualify for my seventh in a Donate Life car. And when I was asked to be part of this campaign, you know, effectively represent my friend, it means a lot to me. People keep asking me if I'm excited about the race this year, and I'm excited. I am, but excited isn't really the right word for this. It carries so much weight. There is a lot of responsibility involved in A, representing something like this, B, the reason why I'm representing this. So there's a lot of weight and responsibility. So I hope our car looks as pretty in real life as she looks in the renderings. I hope she goes as fast as she looks, but more than that, I hope that we're able to reach more students than ever before, more Indiana students who are signing up for their first driver's license, getting them to understand what it would mean to tick that box, and getting them to have the conversation with their parents, most important of all, that should something ever go wrong, this is the box I've ticked, and this is something I want to do. Because let's face it, the worst thing about organ donation and transplantation is this is a miracle for maybe 5, 6, 7, many other families if you have somebody who's also a tissue donor. But it is the worst day of another family's life. So encouraging people to have that conversation ahead of time so that families know your wishes is a huge part of what both Steph and myself are out there trying to do.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for supporting the cause. I am wearing my green Donate Life bracelet. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did. It is very fetching with your Pippa shirt, I have to say.
Well, I wanted to surprise Pippa by wearing my Pippa jacket this morning. I did not surprise her. I got an email from her telling me, I got your order, I'm headed to the warehouse. So I knew that wouldn't be a surprise, but
yeah, I'm my own shipping manager too.
What I did.
So all that punting I did a couple of weeks ago where I kept telling people that, also when orders were coming in for the warehouse, I kept emailing back, but I don't tell everybody necessarily that that's me, so my middle name is Caroline. So Caroline responds to a lot of my website correspondence. So last week while I was at work at Laguna Seca in California, Caroline was telling a lot of people like, hey, thanks so much for your order. Pippa's actually traveling this week. Would you like a refund, or are you happy for us to send your order next week? So Caroline was doing a lot of that on my behalf last week.
See, you're finding out a lot of secrets this morning. So when I ordered mine, and I earned it because I've got the little heart on my driver's license. Anybody who wants to come up, maybe get a selfie with Pippa before she goes up with her interview with Doug Zook, I ordered 20 more. So you get to, see, I did surprise you, didn't I?
You did.
So I've got more. If you've got a little heart on your license and you want one of these, we got them.
We got them right here.
That's your, see, I scared you when I said I had a surprise.
She said she had a surprise. I'm like, oh no.
It's a good surprise.
It is a good surprise.
And you are still wearing the pink helmet. Talk about the pink helmet.
So you guys will also notice we kept the numbers on the car pink, and my mirror's pink. I'm keeping my helmet pink for another year too. Previous to this car, I was representing another cause close to my heart, Susan G. Komen. Back when I was a teenager, my aunt passed away from breast cancer. So cancer had always been a conversation in my family, and the conversation around organ donation and transplantation, quite frankly, was fairly new to me because I had not been touched personally by this until Justin and Brian's story. However, when I was driving this car, all of these little girl race fans started to connect with me in a way that I'd never experienced before. And so I went from the first few days in the garage area in this bright pink polo of like, sort of pulling this face and having my head down and not wanting to be seen, to learning to stand up in the color and learning that, again, it's okay to be female and do what I do. It doesn't describe what I am as a driver, it describes who I am as a person. So when I made the decision to accept this offer to work with Donate Life, and this was something I wanted to do, it was very important to me. And interestingly enough, it was actually just as important to them that I kept a thread to what I had been doing before and what had helped all these young girls identify with me out on the racetrack. So that's why we have a blue and green car with bright pink numbers and bright pink mirrors, and I will be wearing a bright pink helmet in it because I figured that that's the best way for a little girl to know there's someone like me out there in this race and in this race car, and the easiest way for them to try and find me is to look for the little pink helmet in the car as it's coming past.
That's great, thank you. And when I see that pink helmet go by at Indy, I am in Tower Terrace South, and I will wave, and you can wave back on the parade lap. Okay, I expect it. I will know you're waving at me.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you. Now, ready for Q&A? All right, so I get the, like I've not had enough questions. What's next for you when you're done racing?
Oh, when I'm done racing or when I'm done here in this room? Because right now I'm trying to just keep my days in order.
When you're done racing, long range.
The honest answer is I don't know. I'm obviously going to continue working as a performance driving coach because that's where my income comes from. I'd like to continue building private coaching for clients to grow that. What I would really love to do is I'd love to help use the lessons I have learned to try and help the next generation of female racers. So I'd love to try and use the lessons I've learned to see if I can help them find the funding to keep racing, to teach them how to use their social media accounts in the right way, to see if I can in any way kind of help them take the next steps. If I could be part of helping get another female racer to the Indy 500 after me, I think that would be really, really cool. Once again, it's not something that's going to make me any money, so, but I think it would be something very cool to be involved with.
Great. Questions? Anybody?
This is a quiet crowd. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
What's the hardest part of race day?
What's the hardest part of race day? Right before they strap me in the car. It's my least favorite part of race day. It slowly kind of builds. One day when I'm done driving, I will be able to watch and enjoy all the pageantry again. Quite honestly, after driver intros, I just want all that stuff to be over and I just want to be in the car. Because I start to feel better again when I'm strapped in the car. But the worst part of race month It's qualifying, quite frankly. It's such a high intensity, high pressure environment, and with the way the rules are written this year, Saturday is just going to be awful. It's going to be a really hideous pressure cooker for all of the small teams especially. And it's the one day I won't stop and sign for people or take pictures is before my qualifying runs on that day. It's genuinely no fun. I wish I could say, you know, the cars at those speeds are so on the edge of, you know, any traction they've got. And again, to kind of harp on about it and drive the point home with a nail, with the rules and the bumping being on the first day of qualifying, like, you're a small team. You have some kind of engine issue, you're trying to fix it in one day. You don't have overnight to get it fixed anymore. You used to have the entire next week to get it fixed. There's no time anymore. And that's very frustrating, worrying, and it adds an entire new level of stress to the day that doesn't really need to be there, in my opinion. If there was a way to actually go back to having bumping on Sunday, that would by far be preferable to almost everybody in that field. Yes?
Right. I realize that as a CEO, that you have to wear a lot of different hats. And as you mentioned before, I was curious about, since you're not really new to this, if there was anything that you would do differently that was a significant mistake that you made, you would recommend that you would avoid.
So that's a really great question. Is there a significant mistake I made? There are several. We all make lots of mistakes in life. Hindsight is a brilliant thing and it's 2020. I wish I'd started down this path of trying to do it myself sooner. Because it was a really rude education at the IndyCar level to all of a sudden be trying to learn how to do all of this myself all at once. I wish that when I was still racing Indy Lights full time in 2010 and having good results, that I had been more aggressive and persistent about trying to diversify in racing and expand into racing sports cars as well, instead of just sticking to open wheel. Because after my first Indianapolis 500 and then a gap in my second one, all of a sudden I haven't been racing full time in anything on road courses for several years, and my stock value is much lower than it was a few years ago. Only now, 7 years later, am I finally getting the chance to do some of that, and that's largely my fault because I didn't push enough 7 years ago when I should have. So I think not being blinkered and kind of opening my eyes up sooner would have been a big help. I think learning how to do some of this sooner would be a big help. And quite frankly, and that I know for you look at least 10 years younger than me, maybe 15. So I know and I'm saying this because I know for your generation this is less of an issue, but for my generation, I did not grow up in the era of social media. Social media came about in a big way when I was already in my mid-20s. So I didn't know how mean people were going to be on the internet. That's where this is leading. And that was also a very rude awakening for me right at the IndyCar level as to just how thick my skin needed to grow as to what people would say about me. And I know for you guys who grow up in that era, you've had to deal with it your entire lives up to this point already in schools and other environments. Because people suck, whatever age you are. I mean, let's be honest. Not you guys are the nice ones, but as a general rule, people suck. And the amount of people who have access to you when you choose to be a visible figure, especially a visible figure who is a female race car driver who chooses to wear a pink helmet, or people really like me sometimes.
Is your primary residence in Indianapolis, and why is that?
So I moved to Indy to race Indy Lights, the feeder series to IndyCar back in 2009, and I've called it home ever since. I like living here. I'm now married here. I have friends here. I like the fact that everybody knows people who work in racing. So that means my job is not a big issue. Because for my job, I am gone a lot. And there are only so many friendships that can withstand you constantly being gone for all of these important times and days in people's lives. But my friends understand that even when it's not a race car, even when it's just instructing work, I don't get to choose those days. I can say no to them, but if I say no too often, I'm not going to get more work. So that's been very important for me. It's helped me feel like I fit in, I feel like there's a community. One of the things I really hated when I used to live in the UK, especially in the circles that my family mix in, because, again, non-racing family, is I would often feel like I was being trotted out like the two-headed pony or something. Like, you know, they're trotted out like the unicorn in the room, and I'm not so receptive to that scenario. I'm much more down to earth. I like fitting in. I don't like sort of being the spectacle.
I like the picture of you in the shirt. It said famous race car driver.
Famous is crossed out.
was crossed out.
One of my favorite shirts, a friend of mine invented it, and me and a whole bunch of other race car drivers have got one. Because that's the truth. There are a lot of us out there, and a lot of us need to cross out the famous. He's making me another one. I'm potentially going to have him make and buy from him later this year. And the next one he's making me is going to say Insta-famous race car driver. And we're going to cross out the race car driver, so it just says Insta-famous.